Continuamos las jornadas y ahora doy paso a Sergi Jordà de Reactable System, que nos explicará un poco su trayectoria y lo que nos propone de nuevo. Vale, muchas gracias.
Should I continue in English or preferís en castellano? English? Yeah. English. Okay, I continue in English. Okay, so my name is Sergi Jordà. Where do I switch the screen? Yeah. I'm a researcher at the University Pompeu Fabra in Barcelona, where I lead one research group in the music technology group, which is a big research in music technology. And I'm also the founder of Reactable Systems, which is a company that was founded in 2009. So this is kind of the research side, and this is the company side, where we make music technology, hardware, and also software-based. On today, it was discussed where do people that work in these things comes from, and how important music is for all of us. My background is as a physicist, but at the same time, while I was studying physics, I was playing saxophone. That's a very early picture from '81 with me playing free jazz. I was playing tenor saxophone, and I was very bad because I didn't like to rehearse. And that's essential to understand why I became a computer musician. Because I understood at that time, when I started looking at computers, that when you are able to tell a computer what to do, which seems complicated at the beginning, once you learn how to do it, they do it. And that computers don't get bored doing boring things. So I thought, I mean, there's a whole part of making music that I love, but which is really kind of instant about the music, the moment of making it. However, I don't like to be making scales all the time. So when I understood all that, it was around '83, I decided I was going to become a computer music improviser. Then I became kind of more scientist and other things, and a CEO of a company, but that has been my motto since I was 20, being a computer music improviser. That's from '96, okay? So, my perspective here is really not as a designer. I could never consider myself a designer. If any case, I would consider myself probably an inventor. And that has to do with seeing the whole picture and dealing with the whole picture, or taking some parts. So for me, making music technology has always been about making instruments. And as instruments, I mean the whole thing. So, and it's kind of a holistic approach to something. I will not insist too much about what is a music instrument and what makes a good instrument being good or bad. That's something I was asked in a jury in 2011 about what would be for you the goal of how would you evaluate a good music instrument, a good new. Here I put two things. One is that it needs to, I mean, as a designer or as a worker, of a builder of music instruments that are made for the others, I guess the goal is that this brings something to the people that uses it. The other, from a more ecological perspective, is that in order to make something new, you need to make something that is at least very good at doing something. That is, I wouldn't say unique, but that really makes it great at this thing. It can be small, but it should be something. Okay? I know in 30 minutes to tell this whole philosophy might be a bit complicated, but just that's to start. So I will start with the instrument that kind of made us more popular, which is the Reactable, and that's the 4 people that made it. I will show later what it is. I show it because it has also been discussed about, should we be musicians, should we be designers, should we be programmers? Okay, these 4 people were computer scientists and engineers and musicians. And when I say and, the 4 of us were the 3 things. I'm sorry there were no designers. But, and I'm sure you can get it by the slides, no? The design of the slides. But we kind of had an idea about what we wanted to make. So at this time, it was kind of, live computer music was really starting, and people were playing live with their laptops, and people didn't really like to see someone behind the laptop, because sometimes they thought, and many times with reason, not for the Ableton Live users, but for other users of other software, like iTunes users, that they were not doing anything, and that's completely true. Many people behind their laptops doesn't do anything. They just do iTunes. So we thought, okay, there's a chance, how can we make something for people to make really live music? And so these are some of the ideas also that came as musicians. And the first one, for example, especially for me as an improviser. As an improviser, and something that, I mean, I used to play saxophone, as I said, something that I still envy from people that play the guitar and the saxophone is that all their music is with the instrument. When they go to a jam, they don't need to think what loops and what templates and what files and what are they going to bring, because they have everything there. You get this idea? A guitar, well, maybe you choose the pedals, but it's like it has everything in there. So I thought, is it possible to have a computer that has that, so that I can play tonight and I don't have to think what I'm going to play, because maybe I'm going to shift completely while I'm playing, or maybe I'm playing with someone that is going to do something completely different than what I thought. So that was an important thing. And the other, the right brain tool for computer music, that's an oversimplification, but I guess that you have heard that in the left brain we have all the analytical stuff, and in the right brain it's kind of where the art and the non-linear thinking goes. It's a simplification, but that's what I meant here. So I meant, if you have a guitar, sometimes you start playing the guitar and you don't know what you're going to play, and you just pick it and oh, that's chord, this chord, and it's very hard to do that with a computer. It's very hard to start from scratch, and without thinking, analytical thinking, that's what I'm going to do, because you start browsing files, you start putting something, trying. So we wanted to make something that would allow to start making music as a guitar. Like, maybe, I don't know, what happens if I do that? The other thing was to make something very non-intimidating, but at the same time very powerful. Like, it can be, you can make just a stupid thing, but if you keep trying and you keep learning, you kind of get better. So now I will show 3 pictures of 3 inspirations. That's very powerful and very intimidating. David managed to make it less intimidating. We tried from a kind of different approach. The cockpit, we have talked today about the cockpit. That was, for me, a very important thing, and it has already been said. What does it mean? It means this plane, I've never tried that, but I guess that if you put a blanket on top of that, it flies perfectly. However, the pilot is scared, because the pilot likes to see what's going on, and if you don't see what's going on, you kind of really feel like completely lost. Making music with computers is something a bit related. You have many processes going on, and as Thorsten has said, it's important to have a kind of very global vision about everything. Like, if you could have, like here, a view of everything, that you don't need to go to the menu there, open the 3rd file, open the window. So you are playing live. It's like piloting. You need to be fast. You need to see everything. So this was important in the design. And the 3rd point, maybe that's not very obvious, but do you know what's that, I guess? Do you know what's the main difference between that and a calculator or a computer? Well, since we don't, that's not a class, I will give the answer. Here, you don't have a keyboard and a display. Here, The input is the output. You operate with the data. So there's no, I enter information from here and the information goes back from there. It's really operating with data, so that's a screen and a keyboard at the same time. You operate and it gives the results. So that was the concepts that came to design something like that. I will later show a video, in which is based on modular synthesis. So each object makes something. What is the benefit, or let's say the simplification from here to here? There are two mainly. Like here you have 100 modules and maybe you are using 2. So you could hide the ones you're not using. The other complication here is that you can connect anything with anything and sometimes it doesn't work. So in this design, which is a bit more intelligent because it has a computer behind, you only put the modules you want. So you start with nothing and you keep adding. And you only get the connections that are really possible. In fact, you will see they connect when the objects get together. So we thought, oh, we have solved 2 of the main issues. You know, because you're designers, what you see is what you get. We kind of invented 2 other things, and it has already been said today. All what you see is relevant in this interface. There's no decoration. It's like it was told with Ableton Live. Nothing that is not bringing relevant information it's not there. And the other is, all what is relevant is shown. So you really take a look at this screen and you know everything. Like, for example, level of this object, just by looking at this part. Here you know that you have several states. Here you have quite approximate information about what is sounding, and you would say that's a gimmick. Okay, seeing waveforms is just a gimmick, and I would say no. Seeing waveforms is not a gimmick because when you put many tracks, you never know which one is which. But if you see how they sound, in 10 minutes you get learned to that. Like, this must be a synth sound, that's a bass, and that's a more synthetic sound. And if you put a drum track, you would clearly get trained very quickly about which one is the drums. And that's important because you know where each sound comes from. I will put a video. This is by Mark Robertson, who played with Björk, and he's one of the fine performers. So you will get an idea, if you haven't seen, how it goes. That's completely live. Okay? There are some sequences, but the music is being made live. Well, I will. It's in the internet, you can see it. There are many, but I put it because there are hundreds or even thousands of videos, and as Antonia says, because she's our community manager, 99% of them are very bad. So, so it's good, it's bad because we don't have control over the videos, okay? So it's very good to know which are the good ones. This one, Matt Robertson, is a good one. Okay, so, no, it's true. There are thousands of videos, and many are really completely useless. Okay, so we managed somehow to make something that was appealing to beginners. In fact, there are many React tables in museums, and people, especially kids, love it. So we made something with a low entry. Like, you go You throw things, it sounds, you move, it changes, and people really love it. And we managed to convince some high-end professionals, meaning that we made something that could be quite sophisticated if you take your time. I think the video before of Matt Robinson touring with Bjork, in fact, showed that this can be done. We also made it collaborative, and this is seen at museums. And this is why the table is round, following what already King Arthur knew, that if you make round things, there are no privileged point of views, so there are no bosses, no leaders, or at least less evidence. So it's kind of more democratic stuff. So we made a round table, which in fact is a stupid idea from a manufacturer point of view, because it's much more expensive than making rectangular things. Okay, but we are not very good at business. And we made the company in 2009, because all what I'm telling is before the company. So like we got really popular, and Bjork and other things, working with prototypes. Okay? So we made the company, and we have like tables for museums, like they are stable, kids jump on top of them, and tables for musicians, which are portable and can be put on a plane without paying extra weight. By the way, something about collaborative, I wanted to say. This was a kind of a, it's fine for museums, but then we kind of realized musicians have their ego. No musician would like to share its instrument with anyone else. They want to be in front of, there. So this collaborative stuff didn't take it in the musician side. So in this model, I have almost never seen anyone playing collaboratively. Also, you can make duos, you can make trios, but it's not used very much in that way. Okay, so we have these things, and they're nice, they're beautiful, but of course they are quite expensive, especially considering that we have always been a small company and that we don't make them by thousands. We make them by dozens. So they are expensive. So we started making kind of our projection of this idea into the mobile and iPad world. We have mobile apps since the beginning of the iPhone, but that was something we made in 2016, especially thinking when the iPad Pro came. And we said, well, it's kind of almost the size. You can make something in an iPad Pro. And so we start working on making possible to have physical controls on an iPad Pro. And we made it. But of course, first, the surface is not that big. You cannot have many objects. And second, I don't know if you know, the technology that works on capacitive screens only allows detection, unlike in the system I have shown, which works with cameras and projectors and is very complicated. You can only have detection of the objects when they are touched, which means we switched from our model in which each module is an object to a model in which each button is for one hand. So it's more like movable buttons. Okay? Like you have two buttons and you put them wherever you want. So it's kind of a compromise between the original one and a tabletop thing. This is a video you will well, no, you don't need even to recognize. Here is the title. This is also completely live. No overdubs, no nothing. From an iPad session. So that's when the object is being used and being turned. So there's a combination of using the fingers and opening screens betraying our initial model. Screens for higher control. Okay. This one is also on YouTube. I will show another product. It's dedicated to David. Yeah. Because what you see on the sides are David's pocket operators. So we made a sequencer in which you have to think in a different manner as all sequencers. And on top of that, we gave the possibility to synchronize via the audio cable with pocket operators. So that's a nice video. It's a bit hard to understand what this sequencer does, but especially look at here. Very minimalistic. Also on the internet. Okay, so the topic was how you bring research into development, and I will talk a little bit about the latest project, which is more clearly research-oriented than what you have seen. By research, I mean having many people studying complicated things, not only from an engineering perspective, but kind of from a more scientific perspective, and bringing this knowledge into products. So that was, what I will show was a part of a European research product in which the both sides in which I'm in, this is the university and the company, were participants, and also Native Instruments and other places, and other companies and other universities. And the thing was about creating kind of intelligent, more intelligent tools for electronic dance music. I will jump a little bit, but I will focus on an intelligent drummer. Okay, the software I will show a prototype and a product. The idea is how to make a drum machine that has some knowledge and that can be used in real time, a bit like an instrument. Or that can help you to do things, like can suggest you variations, that can make new patterns for you, and all this stuff. I will be very brief. Some slides here, I think I have eliminated them because, I mean, they were from a more research talk. But the idea is using statistics and probabilities and studying, we made a system in which that knows some genres of electronic dance music, that knows house and techno, or that you can teach yourself bringing files. You just drop things and say, that's my style. Learn it. And that you then helps you to do things with this knowledge. I will show a prototype and then a clip of a product. The prototype sounds a bit boring, but the trick here was in fact that the drum sounds were boring because to pay attention on the patterns, not on the drum sounds. I mean, if you will see, if a drum kit is very boring, everything seems bad. But you will see how in this video you will the user goes from one style to the other using a fader and then adds more beats You will see. This one is not in the internet, but it's very long and I will skip it. Or maybe it is. So don't care about listening to congas and all these things. That's not the thing. I will jump. Well, I will jump to the product. The product is simpler. But it keeps off, analyzes your style while you keep making patterns, and it allows you to add really more intensity in a very interactive way. I think looking at the video you will see. So all normal here, but that is not the volume. This is the density of each voice. Now, with the magnet, it can be much more lively. Well, I will skip this part because it's from the other company. Okay. We also, from another project, we start adding motion control to this machine so that you can record and train it with gestures, and it will control somehow the patterns that are being played.
Gan!
So that's using the accelerometers of the mobile phone.
Whoa!
Okay, so now I will show. I will make show a last thing about something we are working on, which is, I think, more far away than what you've seen, and it's related to the idea. Could we? I mean, it's related to this idea of making drum variations, but the idea is, could we create a map or a space of drum patterns so that each point in this space would be a drum pattern, and so that similar drum patterns are near in the space, and that if you click a point in space in which there's no drum pattern, it will create one which is in between its neighbors. You get the idea? Okay. So we studied and made things and made mathematics and machine learning and deep learning and blah, blah, blah. And it starts to be something. So here you have 9 drum patterns, which are the dots. Navigating is creating infinite drum patterns in between the existing ones. The drum patterns are here. I think that's it. And I think that that's fine for today. Right? Thank you.
Any questions for Sergi? Yep.
So this machine created music, artificial intelligence, you have shown it doing drums and drum rhythms. Do you think it could be done also with chords and other like basses? And
oh yes, of course,
notes?
but then you need to focus on that. I mean, I'm shown the drum part. There are, first, to put things in context, using computers for composing, like with artificial intelligence, is as old as 1956. Using them for commercial tools is quite new. I would say 3-4 years, but that's just because the trends change. And now, it's not, well, also because knowledge increases, but until 5 years ago, it was a very freaky, nerdy, and academic stuff that didn't go anywhere. I mean, anywhere outside a small group. So now it's becoming much more mainstream, and these kind of intelligent instruments are starting everywhere. So chords is obviously something. I mean, we are working with chords on one side, I didn't show. We are working with drums. We are working with bass on top of drums. And it's a matter of, I mean, when you have all the puzzle, like you have the chords on one side, they can affect the bass, so it's definitely possible. It's just a lot of work. And there's there's more people than us that are working on that. I mean, many. I don't know if he will say that Ableton is working, but possibly they are. No, so many companies and many research labs are working in these topics.
Do you think like we could see full melodies and like full-fledged out songs created by machines?
We have already seen, and that I'm not saying that that's something necessarily good. I will put you I will put you a clear example about the reality. Okay? One, Spotify has been known to hire ghost composers for making music free of rights that they own and they put in best-selling playlists. This type of chill out, romantic piano, many of these pieces are owned by Spotify. And they just pay someone to make them. Okay? And then they keep putting this music and the rights are for them. Second, in September 2017, that is 8 months ago, Spotify hired the guru of musical artificial intelligence, and he founded the Music Artificial Intelligence Lab at Spotify. Okay? Is that good? For who? Well, I think it's good for Spotify. I'm always working in systems that can enhance humans. But the frontier is a bit difficult. Like, sometimes you can make a toy. I mean, we try not to make sound toys. In the sense, we try not to make tools like make nice music, whatever you do. That would be a sound toy. For me, a good instrument, even if it's intelligent, should be able to make terrible music. By terrible music, I mean should be able, because if you use something and the outcome is not what you're looking for, you learn. If you make anything without thinking and the outcome is great, you don't learn anything. So that's for me the difference between a sound toy and a music instrument that helps its user. There's no need to make instruments more complicated than, I mean, I think the good point about design is to make them as simple as possible, but as Albert Einstein said, not simpler. That's not true that Albert Einstein said that, but it's being said that. No, I mean, it's an apocryphal quote. The best here, explain things as simpler as possible, but not simpler. You understand? So it's the same for instruments, no? Make this instrument as friendly, user-friendly as possible, not more than what you can. Because then you are definitely degrading the instrument. What? And with it, the music. I mean, I think that making music is a very serious stuff. But serious, I don't mean that it means having years. It means that even if you make it just for fun, it's great. And it doesn't need to be made for commercial purposes. I mean, I really believe that making music is good for humanity. I mean, for humans, for all humans. So, in my goal, it's to bring that to humans, I mean, as much as possible, to eliminate fears, but that doesn't mean to give just free things to fill their life. That's why I'm saying errors are essential in learning. And error means I had this in mind. You try, say, no, that's what I hadn't in mind. Why the outcome hasn't been what I expected. So it makes you kind of learn a bit more. Also, we discussed today many times to know music or not. And I think that we all here in this panel agree, knowing music means very different things. Doesn't mean knowing how to write or read music. Doesn't necessarily mean that you know how to play an instrument. It can mean, I mean, there are plenty of different knowledges associated with music. Someone has plenty of one type of knowledge. Someone is great at writing, and someone isn't. That doesn't mean that that doesn't write is worse. It just has a different knowledge. Someone is great at manipulating knobs. So music, thankfully, today is a very wide thing, and knowing it all is impossible. So you can know different things.
Oh, that's an interesting debate. Thanks, Sergi.